As a constitutional law attorney, Jenna Ellis believes in the rule of law and the importance of integrity in our elections. And she's ready to tackle the big cultural and legal issues facing America. This is the Jenna Ellis Show. Here is your host, Jenna Ellis.
Good evening. I'm Jenna Ellis, and thanks so much for joining us here on SNC tonight. And a bombshell report that is coming out earlier this week says that the Obama administration actually targeted even more expansively Trump and some of his allies during the so-called Russia collusion hoax and Spygate, even going all the way back to 2015. So this headline coming from the Post-Millennial: the Obama administration directed foreign allies to target Trump and associates, according to a report. So a report that was released on Tuesday has revealed that under the Obama administration, the United States intelligence community, or the IC, mobilized foreign agencies long before the summer of 2016 to target Trump, before the FBI began its quote-unquote crossfire hurricane investigation into debunked Trump campaign collusion with Russia. Former President Obama's CIA Director John Brennan reportedly identified 26 Trump associates for the nations to target, and a source confirmed that the IC quote, identified them as people to bump or make contact with or manipulate. They were targets of our own IC and law enforcement, targets for collection and misinformation. So joining me now is one of those deep state targets and author of the book Deep State Target, George Papadopoulos. So George, you know, this is really concerning, especially with the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that says that American citizens should be free from unreasonable search and seizure. This is why so many Americans are concerned about the FISA court and why Congress really does need to enact reforms. So how has this impacted you and your overall story and what happened in 2015 to 2016?
Well, thanks, Jenna, for having me. It's a real pleasure to be with you for this very timely conversation. It's actually quite a sad topic that we even have to discuss in the United States of America, because what we're about to discuss here is actually the evisceration of the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights and what should have been safeguards of American civil liberties. So this report, I unfortunately predicted this years ago when I started talking about the CIA involved with foreign intelligence. People thought I was just a guy who got in trouble trying to basically deflect off of my own issues and blame others, blame Obama, but I'm completely exonerated and vindicated. So I'm extremely happy at a personal level. At a macro level for the United States, I think we have a lot of work to do here. And that really all starts and ends in Congress. Congress, as you mentioned, has the duty now to actually examine and potentially reform these spy tools that were used against American citizens working on a rival presidential campaign, and obviously hundreds of thousands of other Americans who have seen their liberties basically destroyed because of the FISA courts, because of these foreign governments involved in their daily lives. So I'm calling on Congress now, including Speaker Johnson and the small majority that we do have in the House, to start new hearings with real teeth, to bring in key witness testimony from this bombshell report, and to tell the American people exactly why they tried to cover this up.
Yeah, well, the truth always does come out, and I'm really grateful that it's now coming out to fully exonerate you and to show how the deep state really doesn't care about American civil liberties, is ignoring the Constitution, and there does need to be some accountability. And so Michael Shellenberger, who is one of the three co-authors of this report, how did he even uncover this information? And to your knowledge, what has led to the discovery of these 26 names that are now on this list in this report?
I certainly think that at this level, nothing's a coincidence, and it's always part of a bigger plan, especially when you're talking about the president of the United States, foreign policy, domestic policy. And I think a lot of this relationship, if you will, with Russia, the war in Ukraine, China, the wars between Hamas and Israel, Iran, I think that's really all fitting into this picture, because what this report really actually gets intimately involved with is how the United States actually cooperates with Western intelligence services, how they actually share intelligence, and how they maneuver hand in glove in foreign policy, especially in war zones with Russia, with Ukraine. So I think this leak was designed to potentially put a brake on the war with Russia and Ukraine, to allow members of Congress to look at this from a 30,000-foot view and say, wait a minute, was Russia really as nefarious as the intel agency said they were in 2015, 2016? Is this war really necessary for the United States taxpayer to put on their shoulders, and that has resulted in complete devastation of an entire generation of Ukrainian soldiers, Russian soldiers, and potentially a nuclear war with Russia? Who really is in charge of our foreign policy? So I think that's really why these leaks have emerged. Obviously, some would argue that they emerged as a counter to the argument that we do need to fund Ukraine, we do need to push back against Russia. But I think based on these revelations, Congress is really going to have to step back and really examine what's going on here, if it's in our national interest to continue to fund this war against Russia, and potentially under a Trump administration, should he win, how these revelations would affect foreign policy with Putin and him in 2024. So the stakes are very high. This isn't simply a domestic story. The involvement of these foreign governments really makes it a global story. And that's how I'm putting this within that context.
It absolutely is a global story, and looking at the Five Eyes that were mentioned in the report, and our foreign policy and cooperation with other nations to spy on our own U.S. citizens. I mean, how much confidence do you have, George, in Speaker Mike Johnson, who has kind of tabled the FISA reauthorization legislation, that he and the GOP, with this very slim majority, is going to handle this before the 2024 election?
Look, certainly, Congress has been known to be the do-nothing group, right? Going back to the Truman days after World War II. But sometimes it's better to do nothing than a bad deal. And in this situation, reforming FISA under these conditions is certainly a bad deal. Obviously, Congress holds the purse of the nation. They should be seeking to defund, or at least hold back some funding of the FBI, including this new multi-billion-dollar facility that they would like to create, until the American people rein back the intel agencies, until there are curtails imposed on these various spy agencies, which have now been weaponized against the American citizens. These spy tools are supposedly against terrorists, narco traffickers, and foreign targets. When you use those weapons of war, basically, against your own citizens, then you lose trust in the American people. And if Congress does not have the faith of the American people who sent them there, then this system of democracy in our country can't even prevail. So Mike Johnson has a job to do. He needs to reform FISA. He needs to hold hearings, and we need this to be done
He
sooner
does.
rather than
And
later.
we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much, George Papadopoulos. Really appreciate it. And I hope that Speaker Mike Johnson does bring FISA reform in Congress this term ahead of the 2024 election. We'll be right back. Throughout history, there are clear moments that define our nation's path. And now you can own a piece of that history. I'm thrilled to announce the official Newt Gingrich contract with America coin from our friends at Legacy Precious Metals in partnership with Speaker Gingrich. This limited edition 1 ounce, 99.99% silver coin commemorates the historic victory in 1994 when the Republican Party, under Speaker Gingrich's guidance, took control of Congress. The Newt Gingrich contract with America coin also symbolizes the transformative political platform that led to the landmark achievements like the overhaul of the U.S. welfare system and the Balanced Budget Act. This is a limited edition coin that will sell out. So whether you're looking for the perfect gift or you want to own a piece of history, act fast before they run out. The Newt Gingrich contract with America coin is more than an investment. It's a tribute to honest government and America. You can order it online at newtgingrichsilvercoin.com. That's newtgingrichsilvercoin.com, and use promo code Jenna, that's JENNA, to get $10 off your purchase. Go to newtgingrichsilvercoin.com now. Texas is still dealing with an ongoing border crisis amid Secretary Mayorkas and the impending impeachment trial. And will the Senate actually hold a trial for impeachment? And what does Greg Abbott plan to do in terms of continuing to secure the border? Joining me now is former Texas GOP chairman and host of the Steadfast and Loyal podcast, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. So, Alan, thanks so much for joining me. You are in Texas, and I have been very proud of Greg Abbott for actually standing up and doing something at the border, but this is kind of 3 years or more too late.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be with you, Jenna. And you're right, it is 3 years too late, but at least there's something that is being done. And I think everyone should get the perspective and understand that Texas shares a border with Mexico, which is really a failed state run by the transnational narco-criminal terrorist cartels, of about 1,249 miles. Most of the concertina wire issue that you see going on right now maybe goes out about 48 to 49 miles. It is especially from Del Rio, Texas, down to Eagle Pass. But there are large portions of our border with Mexico that are completely wide open. And when you go out to West Texas, you will see that. So I think it's important that we start to look at really how effective this measure is about the concertina wire. It is necessary because that was a major trafficking route for the illegal immigrants to come across there in Eagle Pass, and especially the one park that I've been down there to that boat ramp before. But we have to be more proactive, and still we have hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants per month that are coming across into the United States of America. December of last year was a record month for that to occur.
Yeah, and this really is an invasion, and I think it was absolutely justified for Governor Abbott to declare an invasion on the border pursuant to the U.S. Constitution in Article 1, Section 10. So let's talk about his authority and the 20 or so GOP red state governors that are supporting him against the feds. This is an exercise of state sovereignty. I would love to see more of this because our founders originally intended for states to have sovereignty, and they don't have to wait on the federal government to protect their borders. So what are Greg Abbott's legal and constitutional grounds here?
Well, he has firm legal and constitutional grounds, and that's why I was very disappointed in the Supreme Court decision referenced the concertina wire there, because Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says it is a enumerated duty and responsibility. It's called the Guarantee Clause, that the federal government is supposed to protect every state in the union from invasion. We're not talking about a trickling of 10 to 5, 20 people. We're talking about 8 to 9 to 10 million people. So this is an invasion. And as you articulated, Article 1, Section 10, Clause number 3 expresses exactly what states can do when the federal government fails to honor the guarantee clause of the Constitution. And you see right now that the state of Texas and the rest of America is actually being invaded. There is imminent danger by way of drug, human, sex trafficking, and also now terrorist trafficking. And states should be able to do this without any admit of delay. Those are the words of the Constitution. So the founding fathers understood that. And furthermore, when you look at the Supremacy Clause, there are 3 words that are very important in the Supremacy Clause: in pursuance thereof. The open borders policy that Joe Biden is pursuing, this ideological agenda, is not in pursuance thereof. It is not in concert with the Constitution of the United States of America and the rule of law. So he is breaking that. And so states, sovereign states, as you articulated, have every right to do what they are supposed to do. And in the Texas state constitution, Article 4, Section 7, it says that the governor of the state of Texas, as commander of the Texas Military Department, has the enumerated duty and responsibility to repel invasions. So he's clearly along the constitutional rights, being at the federal level and also at the state Texas Constitution.
And Alan West, I agree with you that I was very disappointed in the U.S. Supreme Court as well. And it seems like the Supreme Court historically has always gone with the federal government over the principle of federalism. And even with the apparent conservative majority, even though I think we've seen over just the last few years that it's really not a conservative majority in full, there are still some inexplicable opinions that the court majority will hold that really aren't in keeping with principles of federalism or the text of the Constitution or other things. So moving into Secretary Mayorkas's impending potential Senate trial, Democrats have suggested in the Senate that they're not even going to hold a trial and kind of move for summary judgment or just basically ignore the obligation of the Senate to hold a trial according to the process of impeachment that is in Article 1. So how much, in your view, will this ruling from the Supreme Court maybe help Mayorkas's defense if we get to a trial? He's been impeached with 2 articles, one that he's failed to perform his duties, basically ignored enforcing the law at the border, and second, that he lied to Congress.
Mhm. It would be very interesting if that Senate trial does occur because, as you know, Chief Justice Roberts will be the presiding officer over that Senate trial. And he was the one, along with Amy Coney Barrett, that decided in that 5-4 decision that the state of Texas, should not be able to put up the concertina wire and allow the federal government to be able to remove it. And so I see this as an incredible conflict with what you see happening in the executive branch and also the judicial branch. And when it comes to this trial, I think that it is a trial of state sovereignty. It is a trial that says when the federal government fails to do its constitutional duty, are you trying to say that the state has no recourse? And also, I think it's a trial that says that are these executive branch officers able to go before the representatives of the American people and lie to them? And I would also say it's pretty funny if Secretary Mayorkas was correct that the border is secure, then why in the Senate did we need to have a border security legislation passed? To me, that's quite oxymoronic, and the emphasis is on moron.
Yeah, really well said. I think we have a lot of morons in the Biden administration, and I'm going to use that almost to say, they are just a bunch of morons there. So that begs the question, though, why would Congress go after Secretary Mayorkas rather than just pursuing the impeachment of Joe Biden? Because even if the trial is successful and Mayorkas is convicted and removed, Biden's just going to replace him with another moron.
Mm-hmm. No, you're absolutely right. And I think that they should have gone not just after Secretary Mayorkas for his lying to the American people and for him not upholding his oath to the Constitution, but you should go after the Vice President, Kamala Harris. She's supposed to be the border czar. She has not done anything as far as owning up to her constitutional oath. And also the President of the United States of America. For whatever reason, I don't understand the reticence and recalcitrance of the Republicans because they clearly have the Constitution on their side. And the American people see this. The American people are being affected by this. When you're a woman in New York City and you're being dragged down the street by
Absolutely.
Venezuelan
And we got to leave it there. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, thanks so much. I hope the GOP does enforce impeachment and continues to push this against Biden. We'll be right back with more here on SNC Tonight. Lawmakers and pro-life activists are demanding justice for 5 unborn babies who are thought to be victims of late-term abortions, contrary to the law in Washington, D.C. Representatives Chip Roy and Andy Biggs held a press conference this week on Capitol Hill seeking justice for those that are now termed the DC-5. Listen to this.
We're here to remember the DC-5, but to fight for them and fight for them to be treated as they should be treated. And I think it's really important, right? If a 1-month-old child was just discarded and just tossed aside, imagine the horror, imagine all the news stories, imagine what you'd see on, CNN, local news, Fox News, whatever. And here we're talking about precious life that was just callously disregarded, discarded, just thrown away like refuse. That's just unconscionable. So that's actually what, to me, is the most compelling point of all of this, in addition to laws that need to be followed. We're a country of laws. And so when we gather here today, we're talking about both that violation of our conscience in terms of how these human beings were treated and the violation of law.
Representative Roy is absolutely right, and Congress does have oversight over Washington, D.C., according to the U.S. Constitution. So how should conservatives move forward? Joining me now is Father Frank Pavone, who has been one of the most ardent pro-life activists in recent history as the founder of Priests for Life. So, Father Pavone, what do you make of this and the DC-5?
Well, first of all, this is not at all unusual or surprising because we've been here before. I've been involved in a number of incidents over recent years where aborted babies have been discovered. And that's what happened in this case. People need to realize the bodies of these babies were in a truck. Now, there were over 100 others that have already been buried, but these 5 have not yet been buried. And they were in a medical waste truck. And fortunately, some pro-life activists were able to take this box, convince the driver of the truck to give them the box. They called me right away because they know I had been involved in similar instances. And they said, what do we do? And so it was a medical doctor, a neonatologist, looked at these bodies. And one of the babies, who was between 28 and 30 weeks old, I'd say to put this in perspective for people, when these abortions are happening, had an incision in the back of her neck. Now, the partial birth abortion procedure does exactly that. It partially delivers the baby, and then the scissors are stuck in the back of the neck to kill the child. That one procedure, not the other procedures that kill babies also at that age, but that procedure has been made illegal back since 2003. We think that procedure might have been used to kill this baby, in which case, why not do an autopsy? Why not investigate? No autopsy has been done, and the Department of Justice recently told the medical examiner, just throw the babies away, throw the bodies away. We're not going to do anything more about this. So this is where we're objecting, again, as Representative Roy said, both from a moral and a legal point of view.
Yeah, this is so horrific. And as you described the process of Frank Pavone of partial birth abortion, a lot of the so-called pro-abortion or pro-choice advocates don't want to describe the horrors of medical abortions because they are so gruesome and horrific. If this was a murder of someone who was fully born, let's say an infant that was 9 months or a year old, this would be on every major headline. This would be leading the news since 2022 when these bodies were discovered of these infants. And yet it seems like the left is able to just simply cover this up. How can pro-life advocates such as yourself, and I know the majority of those watching, who want justice for these human beings that are made in the image of God and had an inherent dignity to life and a right to life?
Yeah. You know, Jenna, here's one thing people can do. I've got a letter here signed by 45 members of Congress demanding some action here from the medical examiner, from the Department of Justice. Why don't our viewers ask their member of Congress whether they've signed on to this letter? In other words, do they care that babies are literally being thrown in the garbage? And here's what they're going to find. Not one of the signers of this letter is a Democrat. Not one. And the Democrats, as a matter of fact, want to get rid of the law that prohibits partial birth abortion, the procedure we just described. They want that to be okay. And they're going to see, the Democrats are trying to make abortion a centerpiece of the 2024 elections. I say to them, be my guest, but talk about abortion honestly. And that's what an event like this, that where these bodies are literally, taken out of the trash, exposes what abortion really is. And that's the thing that the left, like you just said, does not want to do. They want to talk about abortion, but they're only pretending to talk about abortion. Let's have an honest debate. Let's look at these babies. I've got a website, lookatabortion.org, as we've discussed in previous programs. And it's like, this is how you challenge, whether it's your friend, whether it's a political candidate, whether it may be a pro-choice professor, in a classroom, whoever it is, challenge them. If they think they have an opinion on abortion, okay, listen, let's just take a look at it. And then maybe we can talk a little bit more intelligently about this act of violence that we call abortion.
It is an act of violence, and while the left would like to call it healthcare, we know that abortion is a medical intervention that intentionally is designed to cause the death of a human being. And I'm with you, Frank Pavone. I think that the GOP candidates, from the president all the way down ticket in 2024, need to not run from or hide from or shy away from the issue of abortion, but meet it head on, because not only the
Head on.
science and basic biology, but morality is backing them. This is the most important issue, as the first and foremost right that every human being has is a right to life. And so you mentioned that 35 members of Congress signed on to this letter. Well, according to the math that I'm aware of, we have a lot more, over 200 Republican members of Congress. Why don't we have even more signatures from the Republican side?
Yeah, well, there are 45 here actually, and no, we should have them continue to sign on to this and continue to communicate with the medical. There are 3 people who have been targets of these letters. The DOJ, Merrick Garland was sent a letter, the medical examiner in D.C. and the mayor of D.C. It's like, why are you letting? I mean, this was March of 2022. That these pro-lifers that found these babies called me, and this whole process got started. And now it's almost 2 years, and these babies have been sitting in a building in Washington, D.C. I mean, one of the things I've done over the years, we do funerals for these babies. We bury these babies, and we're ready to do that for these 5 bodies, these 5 children now. And they're just,
and we're going to have to leave it there, Frank Pavone, but they absolutely deserve not only a proper burial honor, but also justice. And we'll be right back with more here on SNC Tonight. And finally tonight, if you are one of the millions of Americans or even people worldwide that were watching the Super Bowl last Sunday, you probably saw an ad that was called "He Gets Us." And a lot of Christians were very concerned that this wasn't really an accurate portrayal of the truth of the gospel of Christ. Watch this.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you. I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We can live for 1,000 years.
So does Jesus just get us, or is it something more? So responding to the viral controversy that this ad created, a pastor in Ireland named Jamie Bambrick created another ad that probably should have aired on the Super Bowl instead. This one is much more theologically sound. Watch this.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you. I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We can live for 1,000 years.
Well, this new ad has now gone viral with millions of views worldwide and the hashtag #HeSavesUs. So joining me now is the creator of that ad, Pastor Jamie Bambrick. And Jamie, what was the inspiration behind this ad as a contrast to the "He Gets Us" ad?
Yeah, I think the original problem, or the problem with the original advert rather, was that it contained a message that seemed to be that Jesus ultimately approves of the philosophies, mores, and sins and actions of our day, and particularly the sort of most popular ones that people engage in. And whilst there's a truth within it that, of course, Jesus loves and serves everybody, that he's good towards all, it was lacking in one of the core elements of the gospel, which is that Jesus actually doesn't just come to support us in our sin, he comes to save us from it. So when I saw the original, I was grieved, I was burdened by it, and felt like it would be wonderful to get a better message out there with a richer version of the gospel and a more true and accurate, hopefully, version of the gospel. So yeah, that was the kind of core concept.
Yeah, and I really love the contrast between the two ads, because you're absolutely right that the original, the He Gets Us, is seeming to affirm any lifestyle and sin, and saying, well, Jesus washed feet, and so therefore the compassionate version of love your neighbor and Jesus just loves and affirms everyone is really not just watering down the truth of the gospel, but ignoring the fact that Jesus came and called us from our sin to turn away from that, and he actually saves us, he restores us. And so this is such a powerful message that you brought. What is the hope for this ad, and you've seen it now go viral, for people who have watched this? What is the message that you hope they get from your contrasting content?
Yeah, I suppose the message is that Jesus saves us. It is as simple as that, because without that, well, there's not much hope. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to get out there. I've been really blessed on a number of ways. Obviously, you have this massive viral thing that's happened that's never, I didn't expect it to be that at all whenever I put it out there. I have a smallish channel, and I had a couple of thousand followers on Twitter. I didn't think it would do what it has done and get to what seem to be millions of people. But so that's encouraging on one end. The other encouragement I've had is people I know that have shared it with their non-Christian and often even left-leaning non-Christian family and friends, and they have been touched and impacted and blessed, because I think that this message better reflects how Christians actually view people with whom they have strong disagreements, which is, do you know what? Yes, we disagree, but we love you, and we love you enough not just to affirm your disagreement, as the first advert seemed to do, but actually enough to try and say, do you know what? Turn to Jesus, turn away from your sin, be set free, come to fullness of life in him. And so for me, that's a better message. And to see it be received that way by people that this might in some way perhaps offend, but they've actually realized that no, that this is at least done from a heart of love and of wanting to see them come into relationship with Jesus, that's been really encouraging on a personal level.
Yeah. Yeah, and Pastor Jamie, I mean, this is so important for anyone who disagrees with what Christians stand for, which is, of course, truth, is to understand that real love means speaking in truth. It doesn't mean just saying, well, I love you, therefore I'm going to affirm whatever lifestyle you choose, even if it's dangerous, even if it's ultimately going to lead to sin and to turning away from the hope that we have in Christ. And so this gospel message, I think, that you've encapsulated in just 1 minute. I mean, how quickly did you put this together and see how this all came together in contrast to the He Gets Us message?
Yeah, I mean, the actual time spent making the video was about 1 hour, or hour, as you Americans would say, 60 minutes, which is relatively quick. It didn't take that long. It's not a particularly technical video to create. It was interesting. I had actually been praying about the channel, praying because I'd had some frustrations where I put a lot of work into videos. They hadn't done that well. Praying for an idea, wanted to do something about the Super Bowl, and a friend of mine on Twitter, a guy called Josh
That's amazing.
Dawes,
And we're going to have to leave it there. Pastor Jamie, thanks so much for joining me today. And that's all the time we have for on SNC tonight. I hope you have a very great weekend. As you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of their life. He didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike created the Giza Dream bed sheets. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is crucial for my busy schedule. Mike found the world's best cotton. It is ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. Mike's Giza sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. The Giza Dream Sheets come in a variety of sizes and colors. Mike's latest incredible deal is the sale of the year. For a limited time, you will receive 50% off the Giza Dream Sheets. You will also receive a set for as low as $29.98. So go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, and use the promo code Jenna. There you will find not only this amazing offer, but also deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the MyPillow 2.0 mattress topper, which I have and I love, the MyPillow kitchen towel sets, and now even flannel sheets and so much more. We definitely need flannel sheets for as crazy as all of this weather has been lately. So go to mypillow.com and make sure you use the promo code Jenna or call 1-800-564-8475. That's 1-800-564-8475 and use the promo code Jenna.